That would be so much easier.
That would be easy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome to Corey's IEP meeting. I am Ms. Shanahan and I am Corey's special ed teacher.
I'm Mrs. Crammel and I'm his math teacher.
I'm Brian Benson. I'm here to advocate for the family.
Oh, great.
I'm Kevin. I'm Dad.
My name is Pearl Drescher and I am a student teacher.
And I'm Tiff Spiegel, and I am the LEA here, the principal.
So welcome, everybody. We do need to give a little bit of attention to Ms. Drescher here. She is our new student teacher, and we didn't know if she would be able to attend the meeting when we put out the meeting notice. So as your parental right, you have the right to receive adequate notice for any participants that will be here. And so she wasn't on the meeting notice, so we just need to have your permission that she stay.
That's fine.
Now, if you guys are not comfortable with that, we can ask Ms. Drescher to leave.
No,
But she has been working with Corey, so she has a nice little
I
insight.
really like them.
Okay, great, all right, thank you. Okay, so I have went ahead and passed out the Johnston agenda here for Corey. All of our students really receive this nice agenda in our parents, so we know what to, what to predict or what to expect. So like we did our introductions and we welcomed you, and now the big thing is we're going to the time of the meeting. And so sometimes we think, oh, why is this a big deal? This is a big deal because I want, and everybody wants this around this table, we all have busy lives. And so we need to make sure that we're using our time wisely. So we will begin right here at 9 o'clock. And we'll have a hard stop at 10:30 because I need to get back to my my classroom, and I know Ms. Crammel does as well, and especially since we have Ms. Drescher, we have nobody to cover class. So we'll do a hard stop at 10:30. If we're not done, we don't want to feel rushed, we can do a part 2. So it's not that big of a deal. We would normally do an agreement to excuse here, but we have everybody that we need, all of our team players, so we don't have to do that. And then just a nice reminder, the reason we have our meeting today is because it's Corey's annual review. So every year we come together and we look at the data and we see all the great things that Corey is doing and has achieved and accomplished, and then also what we need to do to move forward to help Corey.
So I'm gonna stop right there.
Sure.
So, Mr. Jensen was listed, our assistant principal is listed as on the meeting notice as attending. I was not on there, but, I will be stepping in for him as the principal, since he's not able to be here.
Yes, thank you for reminding me that. So the LEA, so that means if there's any big financial decisions, then she'll be making them.
Did Corey want to be here today too?
I thought you said Corey was homesick today.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
His mom.
I knew he was at his
Sorry
mom's
about
house last night. No, that's okay. Okay, so the next part that we get to do is one of my favorite parts of the IEP meeting. It is the procedural safeguards. Now, I've also emailed them to you too, so would you like a hard copy or do you feel good? Okay. Are you okay with me going over your rights?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's really important that parents understand their rights and how big of a part of the team that they are. So you have the right at all times to know what's essentially going on with your son here at school. So anytime you want to request any of his student records, any test scores, IEP, anything, you have the right to gain access to that. We would never do any additional I would say collecting data to then add goals without your permission. We would never open up an IEP without your permission. You are, like I said, a significant person on this team. So you have the right, so nobody has the right to do that or work essentially with your son or add things to his IEP without your permission. You also have the right, if we would conduct an evaluation and you not agree with the results, that the public agency would give you a free individual education, an IEE, is that right? Individual education evaluation, thank you. And then we would just work together to conduct questions on that to figure out what questions you didn't get answered through the re-eval. I can keep going on this, but the next one is we all come around the table to do what's best for Corey. However, we all see through different lenses. So if we ever come to the impasse around this table, you have the right to due process. And I would love to sit down and talk to you about that more if we get to that. That is on page 15, 16, and 17 in that booklet. And due process is important. It's not a bad thing. So it's just sometimes we need somebody to come in here and help us figure things out. Do you have any questions about your parent rights at this time?
I'm okay for now. Thanks.
Okay, did I miss anything? Does anybody want to add anything? Okay, it's a little warm in here. Are you guys a little warm? I think I might turn the temp down. It's 77 in here. Okay, all right, well, it's that lady time. Anyway, okay, so. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next thing, I know that we would normally ask about if Corey is on Medicaid, but you have already signed the waiver, all of our information for Medicaid, and we're currently billing on Medicaid, so we do not have to do anything else. The next thing is we would love to hear if you have any concerns about Corey.
We're just still getting some communication from his teachers that
Okay.
say he's being silly in class once in a while. And his grades aren't great. I'd like him to be a little better.
Okay.
So we're trying to get him to work, but he doesn't want to.
Sure. Some of that's the age, believe me. Yeah, some of that's the age. And just so you know, Miss Tiff here is actually, she's not shopping on her computer, she's actually taking notes. So, you know, since she has her computer open. So with whatever you're saying, she's taking notes to help us at the end with our
And you'll get a
priority
copy
notice.
of this, it's the PWM that'll come with this final copy of this IEP.
Okay, so we are at the point where we get to actually review Corey's IEP from last year. And now, you know, he currently has a behavior goal and a math goal. So I will go ahead and pass this out. You guys have the behavior goal?
Math.
No? Oh, you know, I'll just give you both. Excuse me. Do you have math and behavior or just, there we go, you're good. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start with behavior. So if we just look at that graph, that makes me want to do a happy dance because Corey has been doing amazing with his social emotional behavior goal. So his goal was, as you know, how you just said about being a little silly, was to monitor him being appropriate in class. And the goal that we set a year ago was for him to be at 85%. Now, if you remember, his baseline was pretty significantly low. He was, you know, acting appropriately on the average about 70% of the time. So, you know, we went ahead and added a behavior goal and an associate at last year's IEP. So, but it appears to have worked because as you look at the goal, you can see that his last, you know, couple of data points are 95, 90, 97, 98. There is a low dip there, 70 and 95. We normally take those onesies out because maybe it was just a bad day or, you know, so if you see he's doing amazing, he's actually met his goal. So I guess I would propose, and I'm just one voice around this table, but as his behavior teacher, I would propose that we discontinue his behavior goal at this time. What do other people think?
I guess it makes me nervous
Sure.
of him being on his own. And so I'm just worried that he's gonna, I think that adult is so important for him to be there, and so I don't know what's gonna happen, and then how's he gonna get support again if he needed it, so.
Sure, that's a good
I
question.
feel like an adult in there with him has been really successful, so I don't really wanna change anything now.
Sure.
Something I wonder is what would the data look like without the associate support?
Mm-hmm.
Is he able to maintain his appropriate behavior without an associate there to support and prompt? So I don't know if we would maybe look at a fade to where we're dropping the associate and monitoring the data versus just completely dropping the goal. And then I would err on like the opportunity to talk about what instruction he might need, because perhaps he doesn't need direct instruction anymore from you on appropriate behaviors. We just wanna monitor that those stay in place as we fade.
Yep, absolutely.
I think something to take into consideration is the data is really strong that he met his goal. And celebrate that success, right? That's a big deal. I'm wondering if we could fade out the behavior goal because he met it. We have a lot of successful points, and maybe add some accommodations while he's in the gen ed setting and take data on that.
Sure. You know, I'm pretty aggressive when I talk about thinking about pulling back some of the supports. But really, the reason, normally what I would do is I would fade that associate first and then see, is he maintaining his appropriateness? However, the associate, as you know, has been out on bereavement leave, and to be honest, I know we've talked about this, but it's been really hard to get subs. And so when we talked about that, I still continue to collect the data, and he actually has been doing better since the associate has been. And I would say, like, he's being super flexible. Some days the associate's there, and when the associate is there, she's like not by him anymore. And you know, Miss Crandall can talk to that. Like, he's like back in the classroom, and even with you guys
as a student
switching.
teacher coming in, I didn't know at first that he even had an associate, and so I
He's
would
just
say he's
really
not
doing
utilizing
great.
it. And he gets silly, but you know, all the kids that age get silly. Sometimes I wouldn't say he stands out as just somebody who's coming in from the outside, so.
Last week, there was a fire drill, and he wasn't where he was supposed to be. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do, like on emergency things like that
Sure.
too. So when I get a call, I don't know, he might be doing better in class, but in those like unstructured times,
Sure.
what,
Yeah.
I guess what do we do with that?
Yeah. So.
'Cause I really like.
It's a
it.
concern.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
legit.
So I'm wondering if we collect more data. So we've had multiple, you know, as you know, we do all the drills now. And that has been the only time he's been out of his, you know, designated area. However, there has been only 2 times that he's done it without an associate. So I do think that we can keep our eye on that. The one thing that you did ask that I thought was a great question was, what if it doesn't go well? Then how hard is it to add it? So add the goal back or add the associate back. The best part is I'm, you know, suggesting that we discontinue the math goal. I mean, the behavior goal, but keep the math goal. So he's still considered an entitled individual. So it's not that hard it would just be us collecting a baseline and adding the behavior goal back in. I just think, you know, when we added the person with him last year, that took a toll on him, like his self-confidence, I think, and, you know, so I just think he's achieved it. He monitors his goal himself every Friday, so he knows what he's been working for, and I'm just so proud of him. And again, I would just suggest, and I would hope that, you know, we could all come together on, let's discontinue this goal and see how he does. Give him, like, he's been fighting so hard, so give him the opportunity, and then if he does need
If we need
associate
to
support,
reconvene,
we can do that.
we come back and use the data. I really
How
wanna
about-
create independence
you-
in our learners.
How about you like, cause he lies to me when he comes home and says how the day went. So how about we just have him, like, fine, get rid of the associate, I get it, but like, can we record him in class? Like during class? Like that, I think his mom and we could actually have a good conversation with him. Just set up his iPad, record him during the class, and then you guys can like the teacher can email that to his mom and then we can actually see. Cause I'm worried still about like the silliness, maybe he's not getting in trouble, but like he's gotta pull that together.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate, for him to access his faith. I think he will still have access to his general curriculum. I also think there's a lot of other logistics when we record a student in class. I think at this time we focus on the data. And if there are private conversations or conversations you can have with the team or with the teacher, that would be appropriate at this time.
I guess.
The recording is just a little much.
Well, then maybe just like have the teacher take a photo. Like, could that work as an option?
Something else we could look at.
I
Like,
think
you guys
something
have
we
like
need to
cameras in the school, like, can you not
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
But I think we
Just
need to
like
think
send
about
me
age
that kind of
appropriate,
stuff.
like, we need to think about Corey too, like, is it age appropriate that we take photos of a student and send them home?
If he's being an idiot, I wanna know.
But I think there's other ways we can let you know. I think when we talk about faith, it's access, it's appropriate, and I don't know if that's the definition of appropriate for his age. And how it looks for his peers too. Like, we need to consider that for Corey.
One of the things that I'm thinking about is you had shared, and I saw it, when the associate was added, the way he connected with his peers was different because now there was an adult in the room with him, and I think he has grown immensely. I think what I'm hearing you request is just more dialogue, so that you have the ability to support those conversations at home and to ensure that your teenager is not spewing you half truths.
Crap.
And
Yeah.
so I think we can definitely talk about if there is a behavior that would categorize as silly, which is something I'd like us to talk about today. Like what are the things that we are seeing that if those things happen, that I can assure you myself, obviously monitoring Mrs. Drescher, or I would reach out and say, today we saw this behavior, so that you have it. And if you aren't hearing that information from us, you can assume that his behavior was appropriate. And we can do that then without cameras, without
Yeah, I'd rather have
video.
the touch, the communication and the dialogue go between the adults and not on Corey. Because I think that independence and the social emotional part behind this, we need to celebrate the success and honestly, a little trust in the school and trust in the dialogue between the adults. And let's let Corey be a little more independent.
And that was one of your big concerns, was that communication piece, needing to increase that.
So,
So-
we have to figure something out, because I don't trust what he says.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the teacher wants to write a log or wants to, you guys as a team, but I need consistent communication.
Is it something where, as we think about Corey's growth individually, he's been monitoring his data, as you shared, or like bringing the data back and forth and tracking? Is it something where Corey is doing a reflection at the end of class?
Oh, yeah.
And then I, as the teacher, can initial, like, that's an accurate reflection? So that we're not taking it off of his plate, but
Yes.
we're teaching him that we do make mistakes, and when we make mistakes, we own those mistakes, and that can be shared with parents. Now, if we're worried about that coming home, actually making it home, we can certainly scan that and send that to you
He
via
can
email.
email it. How about, because we
Yeah,
were all
or do
one-on-one.
Do a Google shared document.
He's not gonna remember, so if an adult.
So,
can do
you know,
that,
we have seen so much growth in him, and the one thing I know that home and school are so vastly different, right? I have teenagers too, so holy buckets is when the teachers give me like a good gram or whatever they're called, I'm like, my kid, like this is crazy. But we are seeing major growth in Corey, so I'm just asking that you trust in us, and you know, I think we move forward with that. I really like the idea of the communication, but putting that responsibility back on Corey, and which also then would, when you sign off, that's the truth. So then you can know, and then you can reinforce at home, Corey, thank you so much for telling the truth, even though today was a bad day, I really, you know, it's a great quality in a young man to tell the
We
truth.
can try it for a
Yeah,
while, I guess.
Let me clarify, so just so that we know what our action steps are when we're done, we're sending a physical copy home with Corey every day then. To start, or are we going to do something electronic? when you say
I
we're
think
gonna
Google,
trust
I think, you know, we're one-on-one electronic, I think an email, are you okay with that, just
If I
sharing
can
it?
go to a site and check it.
It's better.
That's fine.
Okay,
It's gotta
okay.
be updated.
And I
Okay.
think you had named too, that you're worried that if it's potentially not a great day, that Corey may not follow
he
through
would
and bring
bring
it to you.
home.
Yep,
Lose
So,
it.
I like the communication log, yeah, okay. All right, so that is our information on behavior, and so we obviously, I'm not going to request, you know.
Does he still get bus support from the associate?
Yep, we're gonna jump, if we can, I just wanna stick with the agenda, I still have, to review math goal, are you okay with that?
Yeah. we can-
Okay, all right, thank you. So if we go ahead and look at his math goal, you can see he didn't quite make the growth that we anticipated and really hoped for, which is absolutely okay, right? We already know that he's unique in the area of math, and so we just want to figure out how we can continue to support him and grow him in math. So, Ms. Crandall, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in math class, and then we can move on with the math goal?
Absolutely, and Mrs. Drescher, feel free to add in as well as you've worked with him. I'm noticing that when we're working with whole numbers, so our basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, he's quite successful with those. I have noticed that he relies a lot on that standard algorithm, so he knows the procedures, he can carry through the procedures. If he makes a mathematical error, he typically doesn't catch it, and I think the reason that is he doesn't have real deep understanding of how numbers work. So he's really reliant on a set of procedures. So as we think about working to continue to grow, we want to build that conceptual understanding of really thinking about can he estimate? Does he have that concept of numbers, so that not only with whole numbers, he can start to realize how that plays out with fractions with decimals, because peers right now not only are fluent with those 4 operations and whole numbers, they've really extended those to fractions, decimals, mixed numbers, and applying that to geometry pieces. So those would be some of our, gen ed goals, where we're at with students, and right now Corey's just struggling to access those without accommodations because he's discrepant and still working on that conceptual understanding.
Okay, so what I would propose is that if we would keep his math goals similar, because he's obviously not gaining those skills, but then as we would talk, as I'm a verbal processor, so you have to, forgive me on that, but what I was thinking is that we just essentially add some additional time, and that time of working on the skill. So I want to think that maybe he just hasn't had enough time to wrap his brain around, all of these new skills. This is, if you remember, we added this math goal mid-year last year, so it was an amendment mid-year. So he hasn't had a ton of time, however, we still put it out as a year growth. So he is still making growth, it's just not quite where we wanted him. So I would propose that we add 10 additional minutes to his specially designed instruction, and remember that time is with me as a special ed teacher, which would then move it from 20 minutes a day to 30 minutes a day. So I would like to start with that, if you are okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else?
I
The
guess
questions?
why not more? Why not like 30 minutes or do another period? Like, please do another period.
So we are starting at 20, he was at 20 minutes and we're adding 10, so he will be at 30 minutes a day. Plus, I don't wanna take him out of his core instruction. So we start to, when we hit more than 30 minutes, of specially designed instruction, there's not a lot of places to take him out. And I know that he enjoys band, and a couple of other electives, he loves cooking, and I don't want to take him out of those classes at all because he deserves to be in those classes. And I don't want to take him out of his core instruction because then, we just, the gap essentially is just gonna grow like this instead of closing it. So it's something to start with.
And there's something I wanna think about too, is we collect data every other week for progress monitoring. And so if we see that this 10 extra minutes is having an impact and it's purposeful and it's working, if not, we'll do another phase change. So we'll monitor that every other week, so we're not just hanging on for a long time.
Are there things you can do besides just adding time? I guess as a
Absolutely.
student teacher, I'm learning this
Yes,
too.
oh, no, that's okay, yes, absolutely, there's different things that we can do. What we like to do is only make one change at a time though, so we can tell which one is,
That makes sense.
working. So another thing I would propose is if the 10 minutes isn't working after, multiple data sets, then maybe we start looking at something else, different materials or different way of teaching or in a smaller group. So there are definitely different things that we can do. We just want to start and test out one thing at a time so then we know what is working.
I think when we get to the accommodation section too, there's different things we could do in the gen ed classroom to help him, like seating prep, like where is he seated? Different accommodations we can look at.
I think that would help with his attention as well. Dad, you were worried about him being silly. So I think an accommodation that I would add would be, sitting close to the teacher. I mean,
I'm good with that.
that's an easy one. The thing that I wanna make sure is that, he is starting to be independent and I would never want anybody to make a scene of, you have to do this, but we could collect some, unofficial data of like how many times he chose not to sit in the front
But I
seat
don't think
or
we
the front.
make him sit at the
No.
front. If we're not gonna make it a deal. I think we talked to him about, it might be best for him, but that might be something to talk about at home too, of let's try this, and you don't want an associate any longer. Let's see if we can advocate for ourselves,
Yeah,
maybe
he
sit
doesn't
closer.
Yeah, he wants to be out the associate, but.
Yeah.
You just need his help.
And he can do it. I really think he can
And
do
we
it. And I
appreciate
think-
him advocating for himself too. We want him to
Absolutely.
be independent.
And going back to our communication log, I think, that is also, he can write in there if he has assignments or if he needs, if he's falling behind on assignments, and then, Ms. Crandall can sign off on that. So I think just adding those 2 accommodations will really help him.
What other accommodations do you have?
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. You're just hopping forward.
But math goal's gonna stay the same, but we're gonna increase the minutes. That's
Yes.
all we're doing there.
Yep.
I'm good on math.
Are you-
but
you're
we can go
good?
on accommodation.
Okay, all right. I know you said you had a meeting, so I wanna make sure that we're keeping our time for you. Okay, so our accommodations, I'm sorry, so much paper here, normally on my computer, but.
We're on, it says goal proposal. Are we there? Are we math? Or math is the same, we did that one.
Yep, and then
Yep.
the discontinue the social emotional. Let's go to, the transportation we talked about a little, you brought up dad, transportation.
Just be on the bus.
Yeah, yeah,
When there's, yeah,
yep, with the discontinuing of the social emotional goal, so
he just rides the regular bus now.
he could ride the regular bus, or if he wants to drive to school, I mean, that's up to you.
He
I
just
mean-
got his permit, but yeah, we can pick him up or have
Yeah.
him ride his bike or
Yeah.
something.
Yep,
Okay.
So why don't you let us know if you want us to, he qualifies for just regular transportation, so just let us know. We can set
but at
that
this
up.
time, we're just gonna,
Cause you're-
no transportation unless you let us know
Okay.
for regular bus.
Okay, so that, I'm just gonna go through what we currently have in services, and then we can, add or take out, we just wanna see, how it, works. So in our, in Corey's current, supports for school personnel is that his special ed teacher and his gen ed teacher will continue to collaborate, minimum of 20 minutes per month. So, is everybody still okay with that? Okay. Another one is schedule check-ins with a known adult in the morning and throughout his day. I think that would be really important to continue since we are taking that associate away. And maybe that associate could be that person, so that he can still maintain that relationship, but just in like a different light. The next one is that when he takes district-wide assessments, he's allowed to be in a small group, some extra time, and can request a break in case if he needs to, get up and walk out his little sillies, because I even have to do that as an adult. So we're gonna wanna continue that one. And then the one that I think is really important that we continue is that he will continue to get, he can have his math assignments chunked, and even with his assessments, he can take some one day and, have a break and then go back and do it. On assessments that allow that. So, our Iowa assessments would not allow that, but all of his other assessments, that would be fine.
And just to let you know, the Iowa assessments, they are untimed, so he does have as much time as needed to complete that. What we wouldn't be able to do is chunk it,
And day,
only do this overtime.
And then the only other accommodation that he has right now is that math problems can be read aloud if he chooses that. So I think that we keep that unless if somebody else has a problem with that. He doesn't actually use that very often, but sometimes if he goes, if he comes into my room for, test taking, he will ask me to read if they're super long. I don't see him using that much in the class.
One of the things that I wonder is that may have been an easier accommodation to pull off when he had an adult with him. I certainly, if he raises his hand and asks us to read it aloud, we will. My wonder though, as he's seeking more independence, is if he's gonna advocate for himself in that way. I think something that we would just wanna be watching for, and that's where maybe we shift this to more of that preferential seating, where he's seated near a teacher or near access, so that my check-ins can be a little bit more frequent with him, because I do think if I see that he needs that, I can add that, but since he's not using it right now, and if he does, he's got an adult right there to support that, I think that it probably doesn't have the same need that it did.
I would encourage, let's keep it, and then we can keep data on it, or we can see how, do a gauge check and how often is he using it?
Yeah.
If he's not, or it's not using, then we pull it, but let's now, I hate to
doesn't hurt
pull it
anything
if he
right now.
needs it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause we do want him to keep advocating for himself,
Is that something we can put on that daily communication if it happens?
absolutely.
It's extra information maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that is all of the services that, we have. Of course, ESY is our extended school year services. It is way too early in the school year to determine if you would qualify for that, but we'll be looking at that data around March-ish. And then we can pull a team back together if we need to.
How do I know if how he's doing, I guess, while he doesn't have the associate for behavior? Is there a way that I can see his data for his math and his behavior?
So we won't have behavior data anymore per se, he would just really go off of like if a teacher would call you and tell you that he's being silly or, you know, something like that. You can always get onto the Achieve portal, and now, you know, remember you have access that you can get on and look at progress monitoring at any time. So, like Ms. Spiegel said, you know, I think the measuring is bi-weekly on
Yeah, I
that
think his
goal.
mom's got the login for that, so I'll talk to her about it.
Okay, yeah, and if you need help, we can always print it off. That's one of your parental rights, that you can always ask for anything and we'll get it to you. So if you aren't able to use her login, just let me know. Okay?
When is everything starting, so that you know?
Yes.
And expect.
But do you have associate tomorrow when he comes back?
So that is something that we will need to discuss. I would suggest yes. I think that we need to talk to him about it. I think it'd be great for you to talk to him about it tonight, you know, when you get home, and then we'll have one more day so they can just kind of wrap some things up. And then if everybody's comfortable with everything, you know, I know Ms. Spiegel will read through all the things that we have talked about today because it was a lot in kind of a short time. But if everybody's okay with it, we can start it on, you know, the
Wednesday
25th or what, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Like 2 days from now, we
Yeah.
start, we'll talk to him tonight. That's fine.
Are you good on that?
The agenda says the 28th, but I am gonna put on the prior written notice the 25th.
Okay,
So just so you know, go off of what the prior written notice says.
okay. And then we'll get a copy of that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is that when we are planning to start the communication log as well then, would be
Would that be fine with you?
25th, so that would be the
Yeah.
first
Yes,
day of the association
everything,
out there?
yep,
I think
everything.
everything that we discussed will be the 25th.
Yep, and then we'll get our prior written notice out to you. I will get it out to you, if not tonight, I do have kids' ball game tonight. So if I can't get it out tonight, I will for sure get it to you tomorrow by noon.
Is that something you and I can collaborate on, what that log will look like, just so
Yep,
that we make sure that
absolutely.
it's capturing the right things
Yep.
that we send to Deb?
Yep, and we can always tweak that log without coming back together as an IEP team. We just want to make sure that we're communicating. So are you comfortable
Yep.
recapping?
So I'm gonna go through this briefly, you'll see it word for word, but we discussed, the behavior goal will be discontinued. So he will not have a behavior goal at this time. Dad, you requested the associate stay full-time with him. We discussed that, even though he does get silly, it's age appropriate. So at this time, we're going to pull the associate, remove that from the IEP as a service. With the understanding, and I hope that's clear too, if we do see a dip or a decline in he needs it, we reconvene and look at the data and see what we can do to change. We discussed a few accommodations, sitting towards the front of the room, but we're not going to make him, it's not gonna be a tug of war if he sits, it's a choice of his. We also did touch a little bit about Gen Ed teacher touch base, check for understanding. So, we didn't necessarily talk about that as an accommodation, so let's not add it as an accommodation, but know that she will, do a little more check for understanding. Algebra skills during SDI, we proposed adding 10 more minutes, so instead of 20 minutes, he's gonna have 30 minutes. We also discussed, the video and the pictures that you had requested that we take during, the math time. Access to FAPE, that's not a FAPE, situation, and also the communication log between school and home will serve as that communication. So you can see how he's doing during his algebra class. If you do see, something I wanna add to that too, if you do see they need a little more, I would suggest talking to Ms. Graham about that. But for now, we're gonna do it through an email. And last, talked about specialized transportation. Because his behavior goal is no longer a goal, we are going to progress monitor and do skill-based. He will be eligible for a regular bus. At this time, you had said that parents will be transporting, and if that changes, you'll let us know. Okay, we did also discuss the emergency drills. We will keep data on how he's doing. This just something else we talked about that, we'll keep data on that. So if we do see that there's a plan or an accommodation we need to add for emergency drills, we can do that, but this time we're just gonna collect some data on that. You agreed Ms. Drescher could attend. You agreed that I was going to be the LEA since Mr. Jensen could not attend, and then we agreed to monitor his math closely, since we are changing that variable of adding 10 more minutes. Okay, and this will begin on the 25th.
Okay, does everybody feel good about that? Well, we did it in record time. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming and being prepared and being on time. And I just really appreciate you coming in and we love the collaboration between home and school, so.
And glad you could make it to us.